BeastNet is brought to you by James Safety Services in partnership with OCR Buddy and OCR Strong. Here we discuss all things OCR and fitness related. Welcome to BeastNet.
Hey everybody, Mike with BeastNet here, and today I've got with me Brian and Katie Turcott. Guys, tell us who you are.
Sure.
Go ahead, Brian.
So we are a personal development facility up in New Hampshire. We found obstacle racing back in 2012, and it sort of took over our lives. Like, anyone that found it that year jumped in and ended up here. We are 10 years later. We've turned a 10.5 acre plot of land into a permanent obstacle course. 3 different courses that you can run anytime. You can train whenever you want. It's a regular gym, but there are programs that we have that are meant to develop people. Some of them are fairly simple, all the way to 48-hour really endurance events that are going to seriously put you to the test as to where your heart is and where your desire is to grow. And we've actually developed a campground in the backyard. We've now taken on a survivalist training company who does survivalist courses through our facility, teach people stuff like that. So we're really, it's really an all-encompassing self-developmental facility at this point. It started out as me wanting to build a facility to build great athletes. That was my original plan. I'm going to develop the best athletes ever. And I built a place around that concept, but that kind of went wayside when we started taking on more than half of our clientele was people that never heard of obstacle racing, didn't know anything about it, just wanted to do something different. And the growth we've seen in them and the way their lives have changed and stuff sort of took over the purpose for the facility. And I think that's kind of how it went to where it is now. So I really stopped looking at development, not that we can't develop the great athletes, but it's certainly not my main purpose anymore.
Which is awesome.
Well,
Katie, she probably has a better way of explaining.
That's all correct. But when we had these people, we started out wanting to be a facility that trained for obstacle course racing. And as we started to get these people coming in, utilizing the facility, but had no idea what obstacle course racing was, we started to see the spark in them that we felt in ourselves when we first started obstacle course racing, and that feeling of confidence and the things that you start to feel like it's superhuman, right? And being able to do some of these obstacles. And that started seeing that we were helping people feel that same fire that we felt, relit our fire. So although we want to help the elite athletes, we want to develop elite athletes, we love seeing people come in knowing nothing about obstacle course racing, never doing anything like what we do here, and putting their own self to the test and watching that confidence develop. That really is what inspires us to keep doing what we're doing. So
that's what's awesome to me. That's why I love this sport, is because you have so many people with that thought. It's like one of those things. When I first started doing, obstacle course racing, the first couple of times I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's go try this new thing. I've been running's boring. Let's do this to add something into the running. And I loved it, but we didn't really have a place like you guys, which that was one of the hardest parts, because you'd ask people, hey, come do this obstacle course race with me. And they're like, you're out your mind.
Yeah.
100%.
Like, no. But if there was a place like, what you guys have, there, where I could take those people and say, hey, before we go do a full on, whatever brand, whatever obstacle course race, let's go to this facility and go through it, where
Yes.
There's no pressure. There's nothing. We're just going to look at the obstacles. We can learn how to train on them, how to do all that stuff. And I think I would be able to get a lot more people. I tried doing something on a much smaller scale, but with like a just group of friends. I built some random obstacles in my old place, had some walls, a couple things that we can hang off of and pull, do stuff like that, a couple different weird, whatever. But it was just a couple of us. I still have stuff in my yard to work on. I have atlas balls. I have, tires to flip. I have all that kind of stuff, but not the full. I don't have the acreage like you do to the full thing, but that would be so much fun because I think having that kind of facility opens us up to so many more people.
Yeah, well, and that's, go ahead. Sorry. So Brian and I are in different places right
I know.
now. And this
Yeah.
is not a usual thing. Usually we're sitting next to each other for this. That was another thing that sparked us to open this place. We actually didn't live here when we first started this. I owned a horse farm, and we started with a rope and a hay barn, right? Where we just had a rope and we would climb it and have other people climb it. But there wasn't a place to go train. There weren't coaches available. There was not the social media platforms to get advice or anything like that. So a lot of the races we did, we really messed up because we weren't prepared, and that's the other thing that we try to do now is help people be more prepared so they don't end up injured. They don't end up, with medical issues like we did because the coaching wasn't available at the time when we started.
Yeah. And that's one of the things anyone who listens to the podcast regularly have heard me mention the fact, like my first, Spartan race that I ever did was the Montana Beast.
Mm-hmm.
Because I tell everyone, because I didn't do research. I just said, oh, okay, cool. It's a mud run. And I want to go to Montana. Let's try it out. And then all of a sudden, 20 something miles later, I'm like, what in the hell did I sign up for?
Yeah.
Because that was, a lot of people don't know, like 2017, I think. And it was the founders race. So it was, I think it was 22 or 23 miles long on a beast. And
on a beast?
Yeah. And it was straight up and down it was a founders race. So, it was a bunch of obstacles I've never seen again, never heard of, but they were on this course. And it was just like, by the end of it, I'm like, what did I just sign up for? And if I didn't have free races, I probably never would have done another one. Because I'm like, 22 miles, you're out your mind, but now it's like, I've done over 50, and that's just that brand. I've done a bunch of others, other brands. I love the local races. I love doing that. And my love was found in it from the people and everybody else. But we didn't have as much social media back then to really help us find those people like I see now, when we didn't have the gyms like you guys, if we'd had one of those here, I could see us just doing amazing. And in fact, I actually know we kind of had one at one point, but nobody knew about it.
Yeah. And that's a big challenge we've had, because we bought this property, the 10 acres of land. It's on our property. It's where we live. We understand that people think it's one of those things that people build stuff in their backyard because they race and they want to get better. That's how we started at our horse farm. So I think there's a lot of perception there that's what we have, and someone's going to come to our yard and we have some obstacles and there's some cool stuff to play on. So getting around that, or getting over that hurdle and getting them to the place to see that it's way more than that, is an obstacle we've had from the very beginning. Anyone that comes to our place, just the look in their eyes when they walk around, they see the gauntlet and they see all the lines in the yard and they see a campground and like an actual office and an actual gym, like the look in their eyes, like, I didn't expect this at all, because it's portrayed as just another obstacle course racer with some obstacles in his backyard.
Yep.
So yeah.
And that's what like I said, we had one that was here that I don't think anybody even realized was here for a period of time. And the person ended up, I believe, selling the property and just doing nothing because nobody knew about it, and it was hard to, keep it maintained and all that stuff. I know a couple of people have talked about doing another one, but then the problem that a lot of them run into is, like you said, you get that whole idea of, is it just something like I had where I have a couple random obstacles for me to work with? And if my friends want to come play on them, cool. But it's not like the full setup. Like you guys sound like you have a full business around this.
Yeah, we do, but from street side and stuff, you don't see a lot of it because it's in 10 acres of woods. It's not like a big open field or anything. So you don't see a lot of what we have from the road. So when you drive by, even though we're on a very busy road, it's hard to tell what it is. So we are doing our best to do things such as this and connect with people on social media to let them know that we are here, we are willing to help in the OCR community, but as well as we've opened more to our local community as well. I started running some kids camps, was that last summer?
About a year. Yeah.
About a year ago, a year and a half ago. And that's just been amazing too, to bring in kids, right? There isn't a lot. Spartan has kids stuff, but outside of that, there's not a lot for kids OCR wise. And these kids are amazing at this stuff. Like our whole facility was never built with the intention for kids. It's all adult size, if you will,
Yeah.
but these kids figure it out, right? So giving them, especially in this day and age, a place where they can experience what they get to experience here with climbing the walls, climbing the ropes, jumping through streams, you know, going up hills, stepping on rocks, things kids should be doing, but they're not doing, as well as they're not being told, oh no, don't do that, that's dangerous. They're being told, yes, that's dangerous. Let's assess this obstacle and see how we can do it safely. And the growth that these kids get from this experience is pretty amazing. And I hope that I'm bringing in the next generation of obstacle course racers, right? And if not, I'm at least doing my part in helping the next generation be badass. So,
which is awesome. It's like I said, that's one of those things. I do construction safety, you know, for my personal life. That's what I do for my career. And that's one of the biggest things a lot of people don't understand is like when it comes to the safety, it's not like, oh, that's dangerous, don't do it. It's more like that's dangerous. Let's show you how to do it correctly.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's how those obstacles, you know, getting those kids out there, trying to tell them all the time, oh, you might get hurt. Well, you might, but let's go through and explain how to do this correctly and let you know what the risks are so you can make an informed decision, you know, and that's what's cool about that. And having the kids learn obstacles that early, it teaches them that when an obstacle is put in front of you, don't just stop.
Yeah.
Figure out how to get over it or around it.
Absolutely.
To beat
Well,
the obstacle.
and that is, we are doing our part to do that. So Brian, did you want to tell him about the events that we do here?
Sure. So the events, I'm assuming you're talking about this year's event, or are you talking about our programs? So let me explain. So we have programs. They are what we consider to be your obstacle. If you came to us and you wanted to do an obstacle race, you would do a program. We don't call them obstacle races because it's not where you gather with a bunch of people and you do it all together, and you're not racing. You're racing for time, for your own time. If you want to time yourself, you don't have to. But it's a program where you follow what to do, which route to go, which obstacles to do, and you hold yourself accountable. Integrity is a huge part of our facility. We have a penalty program within these programs that if you fail an obstacle, you have a burpee penalty. If you're doing an easy version of one of the programs, there's an easy one. If you fail an obstacle, you do 10 burpees in its place. That's it. You can keep retrying the obstacle as many times as you want. If you can complete it and move on, go ahead. But if you fail it, you need to at least do the 10 burpees to move forward to earn what we have our finisher shirts. And we hold that integrity to a very high standard. We've had people finish some of these programs or tell us they finished the programs when we've watched them cheat themselves. And I've had grown-up conversations with some of these adults that unfortunately, I can't give you that finisher shirt because these people that hold themselves accountable and have high integrity, followed the rules, earned that, and it would only take away from what they've earned if I were to give you that. So we encourage them to come try again. That the point of those programs is to get better, to improve every day. So there's programs that are from 2.5 miles long that are not very hard. They're easy style obstacles. And then there's programs, we have a 48-hour program that is hundreds of obstacles. I think just under a marathon of distance, but it's all in a certain time period that you need to figure out and adapt to your life, figure out how to accomplish the work. So there's programs for someone that just gets off the couch, it's never done anything whatsoever, just wants to try something different. and can come out and earn a finisher's shirt and feel the growth, the confidence. And then there's programs that for people that have been racing for years and just lost that ability to challenge themselves. These have been developed because of my history in obstacle racing, right? We started with the Warrior Dash, and it was kind of hard. It was neat, it was cool, and introduced us as a sport. So we went a little harder, went a little harder. And now I've done 24-hour races and like super endurance, hard stuff. And you run out of options, right? So some of these programs were developed for that. I wasn't big into the death race or the Agogis and stuff because I read some of the things about them and the fees. Like I wasn't up for paying thousands of dollars to go do a paper written test on the top of the mountain that might have me fail out. So I developed some of these really hard programs on our own through our facility to develop those type of growth. So there's all kinds of programs, but this summer, this season, we've adjusted our facility to more of an event organization. Because we've tried the drop-in thing for a long time. We've tried the classes for a long time. When people have that leisure of I can go whenever I want, someday I'll go. They don't
never go.
Yeah, that's been the big problem and the big hurdle. So this year we revisited everything. That's still an option. People can still come train whenever they want. They can do a program whenever they schedule a time to do the program. But we've made 3 weekends every month into an event weekend. Some of them are 48 hours of long programs that you don't have to do the whole thing. You can do some of it. Some of them are 5 miles, 48 obstacles, very similar to an obstacle course race. You can do it on Saturday or Sunday. We have certain start times for that and stuff. We don't send big heats of people out at the same time. And there's a lot of these programs are set for, how do I want to word it? To face adversity, right? So you can't decide what challenges are going to come into your life. Like that's a big thing we look at obstacle racing as. You can't decide these things. So one of our race weekends, we call it Lucky 18. You're rolling dice, 2 dice, and whatever the dice say is what you got to do. Now there's 18 combinations of that dice, 18 different combinations that you could get. You have all weekend to roll the dice as many times as you want. If you get doubles, you have to do a penalty thing. If you get doubles again, you do a penalty thing. Until you've gotten all 18 of that combination, you don't get the full Lucky 18 award. And some people might never get that 18 combination over the weekend because a chance it's all luck. Who knows what you're going to get? We have another one that's called the Wheel of Misfortune. It's a wheel with all of our courses written on it, different, the gauntlet written on it, a cemetery run, which is a mile road run on it. You spin the wheel and you do what the wheel says. You camp for the weekend. All the only rule is when you spin the wheel, you have to do what it says. And then you can take a break and never spin the wheel again if you don't want. But when you spin the wheel, you got to fulfill what it says. And you simply see how many spins of the wheel you can do over the weekend, right? You don't know what kind of work you're going to do. You might repeat the same damn thing constantly. But it's a lot of fun to not have that regiment to it. You know, you're going to do some work. I don't know if I'm going to run right now or if I'm going to be climbing on a wall for the next half hour. So we got a lot of stuff like that. So
that's awesome. That's why I don't like maps. I know everyone loves the maps on all these races, and I'm like, I don't want to see it.
I never look at the maps ever.
Everyone's like, well, how are you going to know what's going on? I'll figure it out when I get there.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's going to be there whether I look at the map or not. So
and so I'm that way because I work for an event organization. I'm building an obstacle course race for this Saturday, and being in the industry, I know how seriously useless it can be to look at a map, because things have to change throughout the week of our building. We have to adapt, and the venues sometimes no longer let us use what we've mapped out, and things change. So people are diehard by the map. They look at the map and then they're brokenhearted when this isn't right around the corner. Well, it just doesn't always work out. So yeah, we're very much in the habit of, we don't need to look at the map. It's just, we're going there to face whatever is put in our way. So we'll see what they put in our way when.
So not to sound bad, but you say you work for an organization, you're out somewhere and building a course for this Saturday. What state are you in?
I am in, where am I?
Virginia.
Why can't I think of it right now? Virginia
You're in
Beach.
Virginia
Yes.
Beach. And
It's not where
the
I'm going to
event-
be Saturday. Okay.
The
gonna
event's
be
on
in-
Sunday, not Saturday, by the way.
Oh yeah, right. So Sunday, that's right. This is
Okay.
our only Sunday event.
I say, yeah, I'm going to be in Texas for something on Saturday. So,
All right.
so,
We just did Texas last month.
so
Yep.
I got a few free races left for a certain brand. And then I'm going to start looking at a lot of the other ones. So, because that's my biggest thing that sucks. I live on the West Coast. We don't
Yeah.
have Jack over here. So a lot of the really good race brands don't come over here.
It's,
Mm.
I imagine it's hard to put them on out there with the humidity and the changes in climate. I imagine it's a lot harder.
It's a lot funner though. No, it's not. I
Yeah.
haven't done a lot on the East Coast. I love doing, I've done a couple in Texas. I've done Hawaii. I've done a lot on the West Coast, but I'm looking at, I want to get more to the East Coast because I want something different. You know, I've done Washington because that's where I live. And there's been a couple of them where like they used to do one in the spring and it would be wet, like wet. Like people were swimming through the barbed wire crawl because it was that wet. And then all of a sudden the same venue in September dries up.
Well, and that happens here too. You know, we're in, well, Brian's not, I'm currently in New England. Our place here, we keep open all year, even in the winter time, but the race season in New England typically doesn't start till the middle of April-ish because of that. Exactly. Like, it's just disgusting, but we love disgusting.
And that's it. And that was a big argument I used to get from people because I mean, living in Washington, we have the same thing. It's like April to September, maybe October.
Yeah.
Is pretty much the window. Once you
Yeah.
start getting anywhere like October to you know, to March, you don't want to do it. It's wet and just nasty. So a lot of no races really, but I'm like that. I kind of like that. You know, the
Mhm.
April race, we got a lot of arguments. People like, oh, it's too cold, it's too wet. And I'm like, that's just a different obstacle.
Yes.
It's just something
Love
I
it.
have to get past, you know, and that's the hard part for me now because I've kind of gotten to that point that I've done so much obstacle course. I wanted a new challenge. So I've been training for triathlons. But then the problem that I have here in Washington, there's nowhere to swim.
Really?
We have lakes everywhere, but they're cold.
They're cold.
Like, you know, you jump in them and you change gender. I mean, it's that cold. Like things just suck right up, you know? So, I mean, it's just kind of one of those. I've been trying to find pools around here. One of the ones I found a pool that's like 10 miles from me. So I'll ride my bike to the pool and back. So I kind of get the, you know, that, but
Perfect.
it's just so hard trying to find the right place to train. And that's the same problem we had with OCR. We didn't have anywhere we had one friend that built a bunch of obstacles that he would move to different parks, but then we kept getting in trouble. Because we'd go to city parks and just randomly throw up obstacles and have like a training day. And then they'd show up and get mad at us for doing that. I don't know why, but
You sound like Brian. Like, we don't need to ask permission, just do it. And then when they kick us out, we'll leave and go to the next place. It's
exactly.
fine.
Like it's much easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
You
Way
boys.
But you know, and that's the biggest problem we had here was like a long time trying to get ready for these. So we'd go out to, you know, the races and it's like, oh, I have to do this obstacle and I haven't been able to practice it. So we tried to find ways to train, but not like train the muscles, but not necessarily for that, not necessarily on the obstacle. And
That's hard though.
Yeah.
Like you really, I feel like no matter how much you train the muscles and stuff for an obstacle, there's nothing like training on an actual obstacle.
No.
As well as we have a lot of gyms that have indoor obstacles, which are super fun to learn on and practice on. But the reality is when you get to a race, you're muddy, you're wet, you're gross. So that's part of why we went with the outdoor facility here, so that you really train how you race here. You're going to be wet, you're going to be covered in dirt and mud and grossness. So we've had events here or not here, but events in New England that our athletes go to and it's raining and people are falling off obstacles left and right. And our teammates do just fine on them because they're used to it. So.
And that's one of the things you see a lot is, you know, you see people like they go for the monkey bars and the monkey bars, like I can hit it every time, but I really had to work on being able to do them in the wet. And I got lucky where I had a friend who had a set of monkey bars he'd built at his house. And every time I was over there, I'd play on them. And even if it was wet out, it gave me that extra, like, it's a different technique and a different way of gripping to grip those wet bars and to keep yourself up. And even when I was 295 pounds, I could still do the monkey bars, even usually when they were wet. The only times I have problems is one of the obstacle course races. I'm not that tall, so I don't have a great wingspan. So it's just one of them that has a habit of putting it up high and far where I can't reach. And I literally have to like let go and like jump from one to the other. So,
well, and
yeah. And when it's wet, it makes that very difficult, but I've gotten to where I can do it. But, you know, I'm always worried of dropping from that one because I have a bum knee. And if I land wrong coming off those, I can hurt that knee. So it's always, you know, one of those things, but it doesn't keep me from racing. I've just found ways to make sure when I land, I don't hit that knee wrong.
Yeah, well, that's good. And then the confidence side of that too, not only the technique of being able to utilize the obstacle if it's wet, but knowing that you can, right? Some people will get to it and be like, oh, it's wet, I can't do this. And especially certain races, you only have one chance at that. So that could, you know, depending on how competitive you are, that can really destroy your race for you. So training on obstacles that are wet and dirty is important for many reasons.
It is, because I mean, unless you're like the elites going out first, they're gonna be even worse because everyone's gone through them. You know, even in the competitive heats and a lot of those different race brands where I've gone on the competitive heats on a few of them. Now that I've lost a bunch of weight and I'm in a lot better shape. And even then, you're still getting, you know, unless you're in front, you still have all the elites that went out ahead of you. So I mean, you still have that little bit of you know, mud and dirt, and you have to be ready for that. And that's why I always get with some people, oh, you know, I want to go in the competitive, not because I'm competitive, but just because I want the cleaner obstacles. Well, then you're not getting the real experience.
Right.
You need to have the obstacle. You know, for me, I've had so much fun. I'll do sometimes if I run competitive, if I have friends with me, I'll go run competitive, then turn around and jump back in with them. And on the second time. And I have more fun on the second time around when I'm dealing with nasty, dirty obstacles, but I'm with people and having a blast.
Yes, it's a total different mindset to do it that way. We kind of have like we can't ever get out of competitive mode. It seems like even if we say at the start line, oh, I'm just going to do it for fun this time. Once you cross that start line, I think because we started out so competitive, it's hard to step back. I'm getting much better personally at taking the step back. Brian doesn't have a slow down button. His is go fast or he's not doing it at all. So
and see, for me, it was one of those, I started off bigger and working with friends, doing it as an idea to lose weight, to help myself get in a better shape. So I was never the fastest one. So I was always one helping other people on a lot of those, like in open waves, helping people like that normally wouldn't be able to do it. Like, hey, let me help you. Let me show you how, let me give you an extra boost, whatever. So it was really weird for me to go the opposite way, where all of a sudden I started doing competitive where I wasn't. I was just me focused, just go, you know, and that was a whole different attitude for me. And I like them both. They both have their advantages. I feel that feeling you get, you know, when you help somebody, like you were mentioning earlier, when you have those people that have never done it and you see that spark in their eye, like, I just did that for the first time. Yeah, maybe they got a little bit of help from me, but they did it. And, you know, they get that huge spark and that huge smile, like, oh my God, you know, and then also that feeling of just pushing yourself to the limit, you know, when you're running the competitive and just going is a whole nother, they're two different highs, two different feelings.
Yes.
I love both of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So one of those programs, the newest program that we developed at our place, the Punisher series, we call it. All of our programs that I put together, I always test them. I do them myself. I call it I forget even what I called it, but the proof of concept, right? Yeah. I'll run the program myself, put myself through it, see how you're going to feel and see if it's doable, stuff like that. So when I finished the Punisher series last April, was the first time it's been done. I felt high as shit for a week. Like I could do anything. It was awesome. It came out way better than I thought. And then in October, we held the first event for Punisher series that we allowed people to register and come try it out themselves. We had one finisher for it in October, and the feeling I got when I saw him finish and the reward he felt when he finished was so much stronger than the reward I felt when I finished it myself. So absolutely, like you're saying, you love them both, but that one definitely registers more, feels so much better because I know what he felt, and I know how many more people can come get that feeling at different levels, all the way up to things like that program. So
yeah. And that's it. And like me, I've been one of those ones where, like I said, I was bigger. I had problems. I mean, at my biggest, I was my height, 295 pounds at 5'7". And
wow.
still, yeah, I was a big boy and still doing Spartan races. I was still doing, I still did trifectas. I was still doing beasts. I was still doing all that, but it was brutal and it took me a long time. So, and then it just finally one day, it's everyone always asked too, because I went down to 180 at one point, but then
Wow.
I was like sickly skinny, but I'm about 230 now. But a lot of that, once I started swimming, my chest and arms started getting bigger. So a lot of that, hopefully muscle, there's a little bit of fat there, a little bit extra that I don't need, but we'll get rid of that. But it was one of those things for me. It was just all of a sudden, seeing those people getting through it that normally won it. I've been that guy on one of the races, one of the last races I did at 295. I dislocated my shoulder 4 times.
Yikes.
Oh,
Bummer.
But I kept going. I just pop it back into place and go. And that was the race that pretty much told me like something has to change if I'm going to continue doing this. And that was a beast. And it was, one of the Spartan beasts. And I freaking just, I'm like, something's got to change. I can't continue doing this to my body. I need to change something, and then I lost the weight, but it was just one of those things that now I see the difference. I see both sides because I love, like I said, the fast. Let's go. Let's see what I can do. Let's see what I can try and get, my goal is to do a Spartan sprint less than an hour. I've hit 1 hour and 24 seconds. I was so pissed.
oh.
Yikes.
It was my own fault. I rushed myself on the spear throw and I missed. And I had missed.
Oh, bummer.
I had missed a spear throw in like 5 years. It was like
Really?
the first one I missed. I was so mad at myself, but I got in a rush and the second I left my hand, I knew it was bad. I'm like, oh no. But, so I ended up having to do the burpees. And then once I crossed, it was like 1 hour and 24 seconds. I'm like, that's my fault. I did that to myself by rushing. I knew what I did wrong. But,
It's frustrating though.
It is, but it's one of those things. I mean, at least, there was no one else to blame but me. I knew what I did wrong. And, I pushed myself, but it got me to that point that like, okay, I know I can do this if I focus.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to but at the same time, like I said, then I turned around, jumped back in, ran with friends and just had fun.
That's awesome.
And I think we took like 3 hours, but we were having a blast. We were doing great. It was all those, before this, I couldn't climb a rope, but finally figured it out once a friend like showed me, but it was one of those that it's just so much cool. And I really wish, I got to get up to New Hampshire so I can go play on your stuff.
We would love to have you.
It's, that's what's so nice about having something like that. Where are you at in New Hampshire?
The middle of nowhere. No.
Middle of nowhere. Isn't that just New Hampshire?
No. What's that?
Isn't that just New Hampshire?
Yes, kind of.
No. So we're not too much in the middle of nowhere. We're between Manchester and Concord, which are two of the like main cities in New Hampshire. So it appears to a lot of people that we're in the middle of nowhere, but we're really not. We're 35 minutes from those two cities. So it's really not that far. And that's one of the things that sparked Brian to build the campground. Not only do we love the community of obstacle course racing and want to share that with everyone, but with everything that's been going on in the world for the past 2 years, the loss of community has been huge. And we are trying to build that back. So he says, you know what? Being far away is not an excuse anymore. You can now sleep in the backyard. We have a giant fire pit and just build that community back, as well as be able to train for your upcoming obstacle course race. So,
but the technical answer is Northwood, New Hampshire. I don't think
I never gave you the answer. Just come and hang out.
See, and that's one of the things that, the community thing is, and I love hearing that. And that was the hardest thing for me when everything started coming back, even last year. A lot of the races I went to, because of the restrictions, they couldn't do anything after the race. They couldn't do anything before the race. A lot of the races I went to, the very first ones that when everything opened, they're like, okay, you can come in a half an hour before your start time. And then once we're done, there's nothing. Like you can walk to the shop and maybe buy something, but other than that, get out.
All right. And that takes more than half the fun away, right? Like
it did. It was so weird because I did, I always went down to Vegas and did the races down there. And I went down there and it was pretty much ran the race, finished. My wife didn't even come inside. She just sat out in the car outside.
Oh,
And
what a
walked
bummer.
out to the parking lot and got back in the car and drove away. We're like, we're done.
Yeah. It completely takes the fun out of it. So,
You know, there was none of the running into people like, hey, how you doing? All that, you know, and I mean, I've been doing this for a few years. I was part of, you know, I mean, I mentioned because Spartan was the main one I did, but I was part of the street team and all that. So I knew like all the staff, I knew a lot of the racers. So it was really weird for me to suddenly not have all of that, not have the, you know, the community
right.
that was brought me into this and that made me love this, you know, and that's one of the things that I miss the most. So I love how you guys are really focusing on that community by building the campground, all that stuff. Let's get people out here, because that's the thing. If I have to drive 35 minutes, which isn't long,
No,
no, I've driven farther than that for a freaking like a good hamburger. I mean,
we've driven, I think, up to 12 hours for a race. So, I mean,
do.
again, we're different though. We are unique. If we see something we want to do or see something we want, we're going there's no stopping us, right? And that's
Yeah.
part of the whole mindset part behind what we do too. So no, we don't think we're too far for anybody to
No.
come. Have you ever been out this way? Have you been to world championships out this way?
No, I haven't. That's one thing I do want to get to the East Coast more. Right now, me and actually my wife are looking at moving off the West Coast and going more towards like Texas. So
All
we're
right.
right in the middle of it and we can go to stuff, because that's my biggest issue with a lot of the obstacle course racing and why I've kind of stepped back and went more towards like triathlons and stuff like that, because I've done all the ones out here,
Right.
you know, and it's gotten to a point that I'm like, okay, this is the same course I did last year and the year before and the year before and the year before. And, you know, they might add one new obstacle, but it's like, it's the same course I've done over and over and over again. So I've gotten bored with it. So,
Yeah.
you know, and it's one of those, even with a lot of them, just going to like other locations, it's like, okay, it's still the same place. I'm just same race. It's just a little bit different with just terrain's different. Ooh, yay. So I've kind of gotten to that point. I want to try some of the other ones, but most of the other ones, I have to go to the East Coast.
Right.
So I have to get off the West Coast, and because they just don't have, you know, because I can name Epic, Survivor. I mean, all of those, you know, Battle Frog. Oh, Battle Frog isn't even around now. Bone Frog, that was the other one, which I'm not even sure if that one, I haven't seen that one in a while. But there's a few of them that just, they're not out here. You know, I see everyone posting like, look at this cool spear thing I got. And I'm like, well, we don't get that here.
That's a bummer. Yep. Well, and that kind of falls in line like, with the amount of programs that we ended up with here, right? Because I guess we kind of got bored with doing the same thing over and over again too. But again, that's why we started venturing out. We've gone as far out as to Ohio a couple of times for some races. And Brian toyed with the idea of doing triathlons, but he's afraid of swimming. So
I was a lot. It was so funny when I signed up for my very first one. Most of my friends thought I was kidding because I immediately signed up for it. And then I posted on Facebook, who wants to teach me how to swim?
yeah.
And all my friends are like,
that's
"You're
right.
kidding, right?" And I'm like, no, I'm not. I know how not to drown. I don't know how to swim.
Brian can't float either. So
No, me either. You put me in water, even when I was 295 pounds, you put me in water, I'm sitting on the bottom. Just sitting there. So that was my biggest thing. Like my wife said, she's like, you're a really strong swimmer for about 20 feet.
that's not going to get you far in the triathlon.
And then it all goes to crap after that. So I had a friend of mine that helped me work with it. And I tried an Ironman in September and I failed. Okay, I DNF'd. I took too long on the swim, which wiped me out. So by the time I got on the bike, I was so exhausted that I could barely go. I finished the bike ride, but I was 19 minutes too late to continue. So this year I'm getting ready. I'm doing it now. Like this last weekend, I went swimming and in an hour I did 2,000 yards. So just back and forth in the pool, going back and forth. And that's all it's been. It's just, I set myself a goal of 6,000 yards a month of swimming, 50 miles on the bike and 100 miles of running. And that's my goal every month. And I've done the 100 miles of running I've done since May of 2020.
Wow.
So, and the bike riding and the swimming I added in January. So of this year.
Super.
Awesome.
And that's just the goals I set. But the problem is, like I said, if I had something like what you have, like 35 minutes away, hey honey, let's go camping for this weekend. We're going to go up, up and see Brian and Katie and camp and go play on their obstacles. You know, And that would be something that'd be amazing. But like I said, I don't have that option here, but I might have to
And
fly to New Hampshire one day.
and that's another really cool thing about, and we don't really emphasize it so much, but it really came to our attention when we did this Punisher series in October, with our participants. They're encouraged to bring their family tented with them, camped with them. The Punisher series is not a self-supported challenge. There's a ton of work that you have to do. You have to figure it out. You have to get through, but you can have family, friends there to support you the whole time, cook you whatever you want. They can follow you on course. They don't have to wait around certain areas to only see you there. They can literally go with you to every single obstacle right through the course the entire way if they want to. We try and really encourage families and friends and stuff to go out and see what people are doing. Like with Katie doing the kids camps and stuff, we try and encourage those adults that bring the children, come out with us today out on the course. Like, come see what the kids are doing and how they're rewarded and how they're growing. So with the campground, that's a huge benefit we have. Where an obstacle racer of the family, because there's a lot of couples that one person loves it, one doesn't give a crap.
Yep.
You can go and your significant other can see what it is you do. They can watch the whole thing, or they can relax in the campground and read a book the whole time and they still experience nature. So it's a really, really exciting piece that we've added for the year.
Which is awesome. And that's one of the hardest things I've had at some of them, where it's like I would go, but I don't want to pay for where to stay and everything like that. And like me and my wife, we made an agreement long ago, because we do have that. I love it. She hates it. So the agreement we have is if we travel for a race, it's a vacation.
Yeah.
Like we're going to Texas for, a couple races this next weekend, and we're there flying out Friday. We don't come back till the next Friday. So I've just got two races, Saturday, Sunday. And then we're going to like hang out in San Antonio, go to the Alamo, and have a whole vacation to go along with it. Because our youngest kid's 19. We don't even have to take the kids anymore. It's just us.
We're almost at that point. We have 5 kids between the two of us, but our youngest is 11 and the oldest is 22. So, and everything in between. But one of the other neat things about the way we're set up here too, in regards to spouses and family, is when you go out on course, majority of our obstacles have 3 different levels. So if you can go out on course together, and you can do the obstacle at your level, which might be the hard level, and the person you're with, if they're just starting out or whatever, they can do the same obstacle right there with you, but at their level, right? So we follow a red, blue, green pattern, where red is our easiest, blue is intermediate, and green is advanced. So that's the thing too. It's not like you have to do a separate, if you come to play or train or whatever, you're not separated by your ability. You can still do the same thing and just do your ability level once you approach the obstacle.
And that's awesome too. I love that idea, because that's one of the big things, like where one of the reasons my wife won't do it. Like she's done, Warrior Dash. She's done a couple of other little ones. Like I can't remember the names of the other ones, but there's a couple of the smaller ones she's done. But then she looks at the bigger ones, and she's like, no, that's too much for me. That's something I can't do. So if it was one of those ones like that, where we could go through and I could be like, cool, this is going to challenge me. And she's looking going, no, there's no way I can do that. That's too much for me, but I could do this one.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're on the same course right next to each other. Yeah.
And that can come in, serve very well with people with that mindset of that's too hard, I can't. So you'll look at the 3 levels and try it and see how easy that easy level was that you knew you could do. And we had a lot of people that will then look at that next level up and at least give it an attempt. And they can break that cycle sometimes, right? Of I that's too hard for me. They can just try a little bit and be in a relaxed facility where it doesn't matter anyways. You're here to test yourself, to be a little uncomfortable. So it really helps. We have 4 levels, actually, to be technical. We've developed an animal level for 80% of the obstacles. So we tend to go the opposite way, or I should say, I tend to go the opposite way with the development of things, where society and everything encourages getting a little simpler. The trophy for everybody and stuff. I've always gone a little harder. I build a new obstacle and it tends to be that's way too hard, Brian. We need to come up with an easier way to do that. So we'll have to reformat it, and that's what birthed the animal level, which is one of our programs. It's called the Dirty Animal. It is doing the extreme version of the obstacle if it has one, with an extreme penalty if you can't do it because you said you wanted to do this program. So it's a really cool, fun one. It's short, 2.5 miles. It's only 48 obstacles. About 35 obstacles are very technical or very heavy, or the animal version. If you can't do it, you got to do 50 burpees for every single one. So if you can carry through that program, you get an awesome finisher shirt. But pretty cool program, that one.
Nice. And that's one of the things, like I said, I love having that, more difficult rather than, and that's one of the things that I love having, like the comment you made that they're right next to each other. So, because I have a lot of that where I run with friends. Like I said, I'll go run the competitive and then come back and run with my friends because I can help them do whatever. But if all of a sudden it was one of those, we could just go right next to each other and I can go for the animal level or the, expert level or whatever, just pick my level and then go for an easier lower level. That would make things so much more fun for everybody.
It is.
You can include everybody.
It's super, we have families go out, groups of friends go out that are at different levels, or even groups of, because we don't host races here. It's set up as an individual thing. But so teams that do race, but they'll come here to train, but within their team, everyone's at a different level. So they can all still go out and train obstacles at their level. And it's just a really neat concept that Brian had come up with that has served very well here. So
that's awesome. It's like the Goldilocks of obstacle course races.
Yeah, I'd say
definitely a unicorn.
All the different levels. So, it's find the one that fits you. And I love that. Like I said, I love that because that's one of the biggest issues that you have is you have either some that are just too hard for people and they're like, oh, if it's too hard, do the lesser race. It's like, but I want to do them all.
Yeah.
So yeah, where I'm one of those ones, like, when, the one certain race said, hey, we're going to have full trifecta weekends. I'm like, sign me up. One's like, that's 3 in a weekend. I'm like, yeah, I know. Is that a problem? I mean,
you would love it here then, because the possibilities are endless.
I love that. And I love the idea because it's like one of my favorite events that the first time I did it was last June. It's coming up this June for me here up here. It's a 24-hour up in the mountains and just go run.
Awesome.
What can you get done in 24 hours? And it's like, yeah, let's go for it. Last year, it was the hottest day of the year. It was like 116 degrees.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, it was bad. It was bad.
Is that obstacle stuff or just?
No, it's just it's just trail running.
For 24 hours? Oh,
yeah.
That sounds awful.
But it's amazing. It's multiple different trails back and forth. I mean, the views, I got my background on my computer is one that I took at like 4 a.m. of the sun or like the moon over the mountains. It was gorgeous, but it is so much fun. But then, I'm thinking like with this, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Now you're telling me I could do the exact same thing, but you're going to throw obstacles in there?
More fun.
I'm like, I'm in. How do I get there?
Yeah.
So that sounds amazing. So where can people find you guys? Like social media wise, I'm sure you have a website.
Yes, we do have a website. It's dirtydevelopment.com. Dirty is DERTI. So Dirty Development is also our Facebook, and it's dirty_development for Instagram. And then I don't know what the
Dirty.
Brian started a TikTok, and we're old people trying to figure this shit out. So
yeah,
I have one.
So
I haven't figured it out either.
So the TikTok, I think, is pretty much the same as the Instagram's Dirty Development. And the YouTube channel is the same thing, Dirty Development.
Right.
The only thing we don't have is Twitter. We never got into Twitter so much, so we don't have that one. But every other platform we have it. The only thing you need to know is to spell dirty, DERTI.
And we'll make sure we put links to everything when we post this. So I'd say the only reason to have Twitter anymore is for the Iron Sheik. So because he just tells everyone to go F themselves every day. And it's just, I don't know why, but it's like my favorite part of the day when I get the tweet. The tweet from him telling everyone to go F themselves. I'm like, yes, but Because it's a different way. Every day he says it in a different way. It's amazing. It's the only reason I would have deleted Twitter so long ago if it wasn't for him. That's like the only person I even pay attention to anymore. Is just because he's amazing. But
That is great.
I have
So all of those handles can be found through our website as well. If you just go to dirtydevelopment.com, you can find Facebook, Instagram, all the things. It's right on there. So
nice. And like I said, I'll make sure that we put a link to all of that when we post this. So I mean, I'm not trying to push everyone up, but we're almost to that hour mark, and Dawn yells at me if I go past an hour. So
that's fine. No one wants to listen to us longer than that. So
that's usually what he tells me. It's like 45 minutes, people start checking out. So you need to start checking out. And I've had a couple episodes, we're on here for like 2 hours. He's like, really, man? Really? So,
you gotta split them up then.
yeah, see, Dawn's the brains, I'm the talker. So I mean, that's where we have the problems. Is he sets everything up, he does it all, he does the brains. I get on here and talk way too much, and then he yells at me. So
Well, we would love to have you out sometime or chat again sometime. This is awesome. Thank you very much.
I'd love to.
Thank you.
I'll definitely be checking the website. And I want to see, I mean, hopefully you have pictures of this stuff on your website so I can get a good look at it all.
Oh yeah, and YouTube channel as well has a lot of stuff on it. So
nice.
Thank you very much for taking us on and showing some interest and curiosity. It's kind of how we've been growing the place.
Oh yeah, and I mean, we want to help anyone that's doing stuff like this, because it's one of those things that this is what makes the community better. And that's one thing you can't mention: community, and that's what's going to make this grow more, is community and having crazy ideas like this that work. They're amazing, and this is going to be what keeps the community going. It's not going to be the big races. It's not going to be that. It's going to be the little, companies that do stuff like this that give us that community.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're going for. So now we just bring it all together, and we just love meeting new people too. And you're all the way. You still have daylight. It looks like there. It's pitch black. It's about my bedtime over here. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only 5 o'clock here, so.
All right. Well,
not late yet, so I still got to go do my 5K. I've done a 5K every day since the first of the year, so I got to go run.
Good for you.
Nice.
I gained a little extra over the winter, so I mean, I lost that 180, gained some back, so it's time to like make some of that, get rid of it. Oh, you got a nice little kitty there. I locked mine out because they will be in front of my face and climbing on me the whole time. So
this is actually Brian's baby. He only likes me because Brian's not here. So
yes. We have a couple of those they like the kid. They don't like me, so they don't like me when the kid's not around. So.
Super. Well, thank you again. We look forward to listening.
You're welcome. It was great meeting both of you, and I'm sure we will talk again soon.
All right.
All right.
So thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.